to Srila Prabhupada, and then we'll go from there. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvise Shashunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Vancha Kalpataruvascha Kripasindhidevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Vaishnav Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so the way I thought we would approach this, and you know, I know there's an anonymous question form, but if something comes up, feel free to type it in the chat box, or you know, if anyone wants to raise their hand, they're more than welcome to. What I thought we would do is, you know, the topic is exploring your destination, and Malvika had mentioned that this month, through the series of talks that you guys are having at Sacred Space, the theme is moving forward and reflecting on our past. So I think we'll focus more on the moving forward piece, but we can do a little bit of past reflection as well. So I thought we would start off with, what does it mean to explore, and what does destination mean? You know, so we'll kind of set like the scene for that, and then we'll actually set the scene on a larger scale. What is the backdrop against which we operate? Then we can get into, why is knowing our destination so important? What happens when we feel our destination is unattainable or cannot be achieved? And how do we cultivate, what do we do in that situation? How do we overcome those obstacles? So the first thing I'm going to start off with is, what does it mean to explore, and what does destination mean? So at a very basic dictionary level, to explore just means to look into something, to analyze it, to investigate, to do some research. And then destination is a place to which we are journeying towards, or a purpose for which something is destined, you know? So we often think like, where am I going in life? What is my purpose? What is my destination? Where am I to be? And truth be told, we're all looking for that, because we're all looking for purpose. We all want to get up every day and feel like we're working towards something, whether it's big or small. It can be a larger purpose or a larger destination, or it can be baby steps to get to that destination. So, you know, we're all in varying stages of our life. We're either in school, we're working, in a career change, you know, are doing full-time service. All of that requires, you know, no matter where you are, day to day, you wake up and you think, what is my purpose? What is my destination? The truth is, everyone feels this way, whether or not they're a devotee. There are 7 billion people on this planet. Every single person wakes up and says, you know, what is the purpose of my day today? Where am I headed? So many people on this planet, I mean, everybody at one point has felt like, what is the purpose of my life? Where am I headed? I have no direction. I wish I knew. I wish somebody could give the answers to me. It is a problem that everyone has. 7 billion people, everyone's waking up with the same thoughts. You know, everyone's problems are different, but like underlying theme is the same. And because everyone is facing this problem, we're so lucky, and we have this unique advantage that we know Krishna. Everybody has Krishna. Krishna has got everyone's back. The unfortunate thing is that not everybody knows that Krishna is there. So for us as devotees or practicing bhakti yogis, I just wanted to set the stage. So real high level question, what is the ultimate goal of our life? Does anyone want to answer? It's not a trick question.
To go back to Godhead?
Yeah, to go home back to Godhead. We know that this human life is so rare, that after millions of lifetimes, an infinite number of lifetimes, we've been given this opportunity to rediscover our relationship with Krishna, to strengthen that relationship, and then ultimately get out of this cycle of birth and death. So I'm just going to read something from the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. It says, the process of quitting this body and getting another body in the material world is organized. A man dies after it has been decided what form of body he will have in the next life. According to our activities in this life, we either rise or sink. This life is a preparation for the next life. If we can prepare, therefore, in this life to get promotion to the kingdom of God, then surely after quitting this material body, we will attain a spiritual body just like the Lord's. If we properly utilize the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, then our whole life will become purified. And ultimately, we will be able to reach the destination, which is beyond this material sky. That destination is called the Sanatan sky, the eternal spiritual sky. So this is the ultimate goal. We're here for a reason. We're on this planet for a reason. We're so lucky to be not just devotees, but we're in a human form of life. Now, because we know this, we have such a unique advantage because again, everyone on this planet is thinking, what is my purpose? What is my destination? We have a unique advantage that we can act against this backdrop, that Krishna is waiting for me, that my ultimate goal is to make it home back to Godhead. And that if we keep that in the center, it will influence a lot of decisions, or we should keep that in the center when we have to make the decisions on a day-to-day basis. Because on a practical level, like when I want to think about, what should my job be? Where should I go to school? Should I make a career change now? Should I move to another country? This will help us out a lot because this is setting the context for us. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's not forget how lucky we are to know that. Because again, everyone has Krishna, but we're so lucky to know that he's there for us. Okay, so now on a day-to-day basis, even from what we just read, so that was from the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So it says, if we properly utilize the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, then we will be able to reach the destination, which is beyond this material sky. So why is knowing our destination so important? One, with anything, a lot of time and effort will be lost on a journey if we don't know where it is that we're going, if we don't deliberately know where we're going. So for example, if I'm on a plane, if I'm traveling, for those of you who don't remember, travel is something we used to do in ancient times. It was this thing called, 2019, seems like lifetimes ago, but back in the day, our ancestors would travel and they would get on this thing called an airplane. We probably don't remember what those look like anymore. You can Google it. That was my one joke. So if you're on a plane, thank you, validation from the team. So if you're traveling somewhere, you have to pack your bags, you have to buy the plane ticket, you have to get to the airport. Depending what city you're in, getting to the airport is such a struggle. You have to go through security. TSA is the worst. You sit in an uncomfortable plane. And then you realize, you know what? I actually have no idea where I'm going. Like, where is this plane headed? Imagine all of the time and effort lost, right? Like the struggle it is to get to the airport, go through customs, sit next to somebody you don't want to sit next to. It's so much time and it's all lost in a way, like if you just don't pay attention to the destination. So the destination is important because we put in so much effort and we put in so much time, and our mental effort, our emotional effort, that's such an investment. And then time, 1 second of time lost can never be regained. So if we deliberately act in a way that we know we're acting towards our destination, all of that, the emotional effort, the mental effort, the time, it becomes a real investment. And those things are so precious that when we utilize them, we want to make sure that we're making a real investment and not just wasting those things. So same thing goes for our school, right? Like, I'm sure it happens, but sometimes like you may enroll in school or, a college or university, and you may not know what you're doing yet. And you feel that burden. Like, I'm just taking a whole, like, I just don't know when I want to graduate. You know, I don't know what 4 years is going to get me. What am I studying for? Or even a career, you know, like it's a lot of investment to take a job and just not know what you're working towards. It just takes up so much of our time. So destination is important. And then what to speak of our human life, right? So we're going to speak about things that are like more practical in terms of like exploring our destinations, our goals, what we're able to do in terms of like, you know, day-to-day things that might come up, like career, education, etc. But then always remember, like, things are happening in parallel. We're not just moving through life to like go to school, get a job, and then that's it. The bigger scene, the bigger backdrop against which we're acting is we're here and we have to act in this world, but we also want to make it home back to Godhead. So in the same way, destination is important on a spiritual level. Human life, I mean, we're all adults. We've been through painful moments. We've been through joyous things, you know, ups and downs. Really, like if I think about me, I want to know that I'm working towards going home back to Godhead, because all this effort that it is to be in the material world, I don't want it to be wasted. Like, you know, I don't want to put in all this time and effort and feel the pain that it is to be here in the material world just to not know that like I made it someplace better. Okay. So now let's assume that our destination is a specific, let's assume that our destination is a specific purpose or it's something that we want to do. How do we explore our options? So for example, I want to be a doctor, right? So, you know, that's my goal, that's my destination, that's my purpose in life. I feel like I'm going to do good for humanity. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a finance professional, make better choices. So how do I explore my options that are available to us? If I'm looking at something specific, you guys can, if you want, type it in the chat window, or you can unmute yourselves. If you're looking at a specific purpose or something that you want to do, how do you explore your options? Research, yep. Getting information, Google, what else? Books, okay, so common theme is getting information, doing the research. Yep, correct. So that's one really good one. I'm gonna take it a step back first. I would say that, Gaurav, think of the end goal and then think of baby steps, how I can get there, planning, correct. So those are all great, but I'm gonna take it back internally first. So those are all great for external. When we explore our options, there's two things that we should look at, internal and external. And external is important, right? Because we want to make sure we go to the best school. We want to make sure that when we move to a new country that like we're not living in the crappiest part of the city, that there's going to be like a good support network wherever we go. But let's first start with, if I want to know what my options are, I have to also know what's happening internally. What are my own strengths? I have to know myself. And like, honestly, knowing yourself is hard. I mean, at least it is for me, you know, and sometimes like, I think people, we think it's an easy task, but like self-discovery and knowing yourself is it takes so much investment. It's a lifelong journey, you know, when you see somebody and they just know who they are, they're like confident about who they are, that person actually spent a lot of time getting to know themselves. Like, what do they like? What annoys them? What are their priorities? Like, what makes them feel confident and what don't they like? So know yourself, know your strength, and know your priorities. And your priorities at different points in life will change. So for example, for me, I used to travel a lot for work and it was no problem. I never gave it thought, you know, and now at work, when I take on a job or I, make a career change or take on a new position, I make it very clear that I'm not willing to travel beyond a certain level, because at this point, I just want to, like, a priority for me is feeling like I'm at home and feeling like I have a home. And when you travel a lot, that feeling goes away. So your priorities can change. You're like, some parts of you will be core and it will be who you are, like no matter what, you know? So know who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and what your priorities are. Then it's good for you to know, like, what are your own skills and inclinations? What are you the most enthusiastic about? This is so important, because if I don't care about something, like if I hate the cold and someone was like, hey, we're going to Banff during the winter, do you think I'm going to be super excited about that? No. But if I don't know these things about me, then I'll just, you know, sign on for everything. Or if I can't be, yeah, I'll just sign on for everything. And like, I'll be so disappointed about my destination. So know what you're enthusiastic about, what your skills are, and what your natural inclinations are. The other thing to know is that we can do things for a short period of time, and that's okay. Like, everyone makes a sacrifice. So for example, I really want to be, let's say I really want to be a doctor, and that's my ultimate purpose, my destination. And, you know, I'm applying to residency, and of all the placements that come up, they all happen to be in like Canada. And I'll make the short-term sacrifice to do something that I don't like for a longer-term goal. But know that like some things we can only do for a short amount of time. And after a long period of time, we'll see that that takes a real toll on our enthusiasm and our ability to just like be like, just to survive. And it does happen. So I'm trying to think of a personal example right now. Oh guys, okay, a bunch of Canadians on this call, let me tell you. I did something not great, not super smart. So for a job, which was a cool opportunity career-wise, I decided to move to this little town known as Red Deer. I don't want you guys to know where it is because it's such a crappy little town. It was exactly in the middle of Edmonton and Calgary, literally hour and a half each way, in middle of nowhere. And I did it for a year and a half. And honestly, like that year and a half was super painful. So painful that we, like, I joke about it with my friends, but like real deal, I still can't talk about it because in retrospect, like what did I gain? I did it because I had this goal in mind for my career, that it was a cool opportunity. It was going to lead to something else. But it was unsustainable on a personal level. I had to leave like after like a year and a half because I could just see like on a personal level, I was becoming so like not me and weak. And when you become less enthusiastic, when you're that unhappy, it like actually has such an impact on every aspect of your life. And at that point in life, I didn't know. I actually would have just said yes to a lot of things without considering my priorities. So as a devotee, like something that's important to me is spiritual community. Was there a spiritual community in the middle of nowhere, Alberta, that wasn't Edmonton or Calgary? No, but I wasn't smart enough, to be honest, to say that this is non-negotiable for me. Like this is a priority in my life. It's non-negotiable. So I can't be here. There was like many things about this town that weren't great, that I should have like, I really shouldn't have moved there. But in retrospect, I learned lessons. I learned like what are non-negotiable factors for me in getting to my destination. And the truth is I probably didn't have to take that job. If I really wanted to, there were other options available for me to get to, as like for me at that time, like let's say like getting career experience was a big deal. There were other options available. I wish I would have been strong enough to say, this is what's important to me. These are my priorities. Therefore, I can't take a job in the middle of nowhere. And ultimately, like I have faith that like things would have worked out. It wasn't that it was the only option for me. But what that experience taught me is that putting yourself in an area where you're just going to be drained, it takes a huge toll and it has such a huge impact. So know what's not negotiable. Know what your skills are, what your natural inclinations are. Understand that you can put yourself in an unfavorable position and you can thrive and you can do well, but it's a short-term thing. Over the long term, that will totally like drain you of your energy and you won't even be determined to like walk towards your goal. We know many people who like were so enthusiastic and motivated about reaching their goal or a certain destination, and then they get burnt out, right? Okay. Now, know that like in terms of your purpose and your destination, you unfortunately, despite like popular media, you can't do anything. You can't do everything. There's this common saying in like, you know, media that you can do anything that you want. You can't really. You can do anything that you want within the framework of your karma, of your, you know, what suits your natural skills and inclinations. And the truth is, like, that's not a negative thing. Like, I know I can't do anything that I want. I can put no matter how hard I put my mind to it, I'm not going to become like a pro athlete. It's just not going to happen for me. Like, I could train every single day. It's just not for me. It's not that it's not just for me. It's literally not in my karmic framework to be a pro athlete. So, and even if you can do anything within your framework, know that you don't want to do everything, right? There's so many things that you can do. Do you want to do everything? No. So you can do a lot of things, but some things will weaken you as a person. Same example, like I can move to a lot of places. Do I want to move everywhere? Just because I have the means and it can lead me someplace, do I have to take that? So, and then finally, research your destination, gather information. Now, one thing that a teacher of mine once taught me is that in our spiritual lives also, are people here familiar with something called a SWOT analysis? I'm going to type it in here. Okay, it's a business school thing, but the person, I mean, I didn't get this from business school, so please don't think I'm like a huge nerd. One of my spiritual teachers, she actually brought this up in a course that I was taking with her, that when assessing where we're headed in life, do a SWOT analysis. So it means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are my own strengths? What are my own weaknesses? So if I'm exploring my options, which options will optimize my strengths? Like, where can I best use them? What options will bring out my weaknesses? What options will give me an opportunity to like work on my weaknesses and develop them? Then there's opportunities and threats. What options in life will lead to other options, right? What options in life will lead to other opportunities? So it's opportunities and threats. And opportunities could be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to move to this one place to do my residency for 4 months. And then after that, it's going to, you know, maybe there's a great network of doctors in that hospital or in that clinic. And that's the opportunity I'm going for. Or, you know what? I'm going to go and move to this city and the job is okay. But what I really care about is that the devotees in this community are phenomenal. So it's going to give me a great opportunity to like build my spiritual life. I'll have the job that I want, and then I'll work on getting something better. And then, you know, yeah, so in that specific example too, like the devotees can, you know, do, like, I'll be able to do things for my spiritual life. So what are the opportunities and threats? What is going to like really be an obstacle for me? And I think in this case, like the threat would really be like, you know, what would like really amplify my weaknesses, or what would throw me off my destination, or the path that I'm on. So these are things that we can do practically when making decisions. And as devotees, again, remember the context or the backdrop against which we operate, keeping Krishna at the center. Whenever you do this analysis for any type of decisions in terms of exploring options, keep Krishna at the center. You know, like if I move to this place, or if I go to this school, if I take this job, like where does Krishna fit in? Like, you know, I care a lot about my career, and it's okay to, it's totally fine to, but if I take on this job, you know, the threat is that I'll be working every single weekend. What will that do to my sadhana, right? The threat is that they'll ask me to travel like 4 days a week. How will I see the devotees? Or, the threat is XYZ. Now, don't take the threats on their own and just say this opportunity or this option is not good, because look at the threats. In some cases, like if they definitely outweigh everything else and you don't see how you can mitigate them, then you kind of know it's not a good option. But this is where mentorship comes into play. So this is the next thing. When you're exploring your options, do the personal analysis based on what you know about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. Keep Krishna at the center. But then talk it over with somebody, right? Because it's so easy to look at something and say, hey, this seems like a great idea, right? Like, look at all the opportunities, look at all the strengths. I'm going to knock it out of the park. I'm moving to Ireland, And then if you speak to your mentor is going to be like, but did you think about X, Y, Z? Like, on paper, this seems great, but hey, also, I know you, and you think you're going to go to Ireland and you're going to knock it out of the park, but you missed all these things. So then you can kind of like reshuffle. And the same thing works in the negative, right? The way our mind works is that, honestly, when we get excited about something, the way my mind works, I'm like, look at all these pros, man. There's nothing wrong with this idea. Option A seems like it's the best one. And then someone asked me like one practical question and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Didn't consider that. The same thing works in the opposite. Like when you see a bunch of like weaknesses or threats and you on your own, you don't know how to mitigate them, but maybe you can speak to somebody and they can say, like, first of all, like, yeah, you know what? These seem like real challenges for you, but here are some things that you can actively do to kind of mitigate them. And then you have someone hold you accountable. So those are some ideas on how to explore your options. Really, internal research is just as good or just as important as the external research. And the internal research is harder because like Google isn't going to give you the right answer. There's no 5-star rating. The ratings exist for the colleges and, for the companies, but like the internal stuff, it's really just you, Krishna in your heart, and then really have a mentor. Now, I wanted to point out here that doing this internal analysis and acting from a position of strength is so important, because when you act from a position of strength, or you choose an option in life, or you choose the options in life that are going to enhance your opportunities to succeed and are going to amplify your strengths, it's going to do something very powerful. It's going to cultivate your determination. Now, sometimes I think I'm, in our weakest moments, especially for me, I think, oh my God, like, where is my determination? Like, where is my willpower? And sometimes we may look around and we think everyone has it, like everyone's so determined. I'm not. But the cool thing about determination, it's not something you're born with. It actually needs to be cultivated and developed. And when you act from a position of strength, or a position that's best suited for you to succeed, it develops your determination. And we'll get to determination in a bit, and we'll see why that's so important. Does everyone here know the story of Gajendra the elephant and the crocodile? Sort of. Okay, sort of. Okay, so in terms of knowing our personal strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I'm going to relay the story of Gajendra and the crocodile. And there is one great verse in the Bhagavatam. I think it's Canto 8, Chapter 2, Text 30. Yes, Chapter 8, Text 2, Canto 8, Text 2, Chapter 30. So just high level, there is a battle that ensues between Gajendra the elephant and the crocodile. Now, from a pure technical standpoint, the elephant really should have crushed the crocodile. The elephant, by all means, I'm paraphrasing the words that were written in the purports of the Bhagavatam. By all means, the elephant is stronger than the crocodile on every single level. Like, there is no reason he should not have beat the crocodile. Now, I'm going to read a little bit of the purport. In the fighting between the elephant and the crocodile, the difference was that although the elephant was extremely powerful, he was in a foreign place in the water. During 1,000 years of fighting, he could not get any food, and under the circumstances, his bodily strength diminished. And because his bodily strength diminished, his mind also became weak. and his senses less powerful. The crocodile, however, being an animal of the water, had no difficulties. He was getting food and therefore getting mental strength and sensual encouragement. Therefore, while the elephant became reduced in strength, the crocodile became more and more powerful. Now, from this, we may take the lesson that in our fight with Maya, we should not be in a position in which our strength, enthusiasm, and senses will be unable to fight vigorously. The soldiers in the Krishna consciousness movement must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. To keep themselves fit, they must therefore place themselves in a normal condition of life. What constitutes a normal position or what constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone. And therefore, there are the divisions of Varnashram. So key takeaway there is that we must put ourselves in a position that's favorable to us, a normal position for us to act, to be the strongest that we can be, both for like our material progress and our spiritual progress. Because again, if you're in a place where you don't have friends, you're mentally drained, you're just emotionally suffering, you're not going to be successful materially. And really, you're not going to be successful spiritually. So put yourself in a position where you have the opportunity to become stronger and you have the opportunity to grow. And in this case, this is what the crocodile did. And even though he shouldn't have won the battle, he was beating Gajendra because Gajendra, even though so powerful, put himself in a place where he was just becoming weak. So that's that. Okay. Now, on the note of mentorship, always ask somebody that you trust what's a good idea. Somebody that, that you can really be like, someone that you're not even afraid to take your silly ideas to. I come up with a lot of not great ideas, and it's nice to tell somebody, hey, without judgment, I'm going to try this. And then if you have somebody who genuinely cares about you and their advice coming from a place of like deep love and feedback is so powerful, especially if that person is a devotee. Because just know that like when that person is speaking, their knowledge, one is coming, if they're older than you, from their own life experiences on a material perspective. But if they're a senior devotee, then it's also coming from Shastra, which is so powerful. And they're empowered to speak from that transcendental knowledge. And again, everybody on this planet is going through something. Everybody is questioning their life, their meaning. We're so lucky that we know we have Krishna. And then we have these, not only do we know we have Krishna and we know he's there, we have these devotees, these amazing Vaishnavas in our community who have gone the path that we're trying to walk on, trying to like succeed materially, trying to balance their material and spiritual life. And these devotees are available to us. So it's a form of Krishna's mercy. So really incorporate that into your process of exploring your destination, consulting or seeking guidance from the devotees. And it's actually a powerful spiritual process. And it's a form of devotion, as mentioned in the Nectar of Instruction, that revealing your mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, and accepting prasad, and we can say prasad also translated to nourishment, accepting nourishment from somebody else, offering nourishment to somebody else. Those are 6 symptoms of love shared amongst the devotees. So this is a very practical application of that verse. Okay. So now, I like what Gaurav said in the comments that, we have the end goal and we have baby steps. So when we explore our options, we're often looking at like, okay, this is my next step. But, we have the steps to get us to a real destination, something broader. Now, we'll do a little survey of the team here. How many times do you feel like your destination is unachievable? Like, I want to be this big superstar, or I just want to be this thing and I'm just not able to get there. Like, I want to be living here. I want to feel like a certain way. We just feel like the destination is unattainable. It could be for anything, like, practical challenges, financial challenges, even just like the feeling of I've made it. Like, I don't know many people who are like walking around and being like, yes, I made it. Like today, I feel like pat on the back, like destination reached, achieved. So many times we think the destination is a single place. And this puts, I know for me, like so much anxiety on me because it's hard not to. Like, look at the world that we live in. Like, look at social media. Like, there's so much emphasis on like being successful now, like trying to like, no one's really talking about the journey and the struggle, right? So there's so much pressure to achieve our purpose, to achieve our destination and feel like we've made it now. So when I was thinking about exploring your destination, I thought, is the destination a single place, or is the destination a process or means? So the process and the means of getting someplace are an essential part of the journey. And actually, I think the destination can be both the means and the end. Now, on a very spiritual level, we know this to be true with our core, most fundamental practice in bhakti-yoga, right? So we often hear that, what is the goal of chanting the holy names or chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? The goal of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is to be able to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, right? The process and the destination are the same. So it takes patience to it takes patience to get to the point where you want to do it, but you do the process, or the ends and the means are the same. And the destination, I think, it can be like the journey is such an important part of it. And we live in a culture that seemingly demands that everything is achieved now, right? So much of what we consume, again, tells us that we should be at a certain level now, right? You should be at a certain stage at your career. You should be at a certain place in like what you earn. You should be a certain place, XYZ. Our culture really ignores the preparation process. So I was listening to a couple of classes by His Grace Visheshika Prabhu, and he emphasized this point a lot. And it was so beautiful that our destination is determined by our preparation. So there's so much value that lies in preparation. Okay. And this is a quote from a class from His Grace Visheshika Prabhu. So we may not be where we want to be, but we can take shelter of preparation. So I thought this was very beautiful, taking shelter of preparation. And how do we do this? We do this with some patience, with some enthusiasm and determination. So as we take shelter of preparation, forces unseen will come to help you. This was also very mind-blowing to me. If I take shelter of the preparation process, of being present now and preparing for my destination, forces unseen will come to help me. So taking shelter means accepting the stage I'm in as the necessary stage of preparation towards the end goal or destination. If I have this mindset, then I can take each day to prepare myself to come to the final stage. So this again, especially since we're devotees, this is especially true for us if we keep Krishna in the center, especially if I take shelter of preparation, then forces unseen will come to help me. I think this is especially true if we keep Krishna in the center. In the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 10, text 10, Krishna says, for those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So I on my own may not know how I'm going to get to my end goal, right? But Krishna will give me the knowledge from within. But there's two different things. Like one, let's just say I want to be a teacher and I'm going to school. I take all the right classes. I'm making all the right moves, right? That's like a day-to-day person. And then the same person, same goals, wants to be a teacher, living their day-to-day life. But Krishna, they also practice bhakti-yoga, and Krishna is the backdrop, this is the backdrop against which they act. Krishna is the center of my life. So when they make decisions, the intention is different. Both people might be making the same decisions. One has the intention of okay, I'm going to accept this job. These are the challenges, but this is what I'm going to do to make sure that I have a little aspect of sadhana or bhakti in my life. Krishna, I know it's going to be difficult, but this is the best that I can do now. This is the best that I can offer. This is the best that I can offer, and then I'm going to move forward on this path. Understanding that like Krishna's not asking us to give up everything in life. We still have to act. We all have goals, like, aspirations materially. But if I keep Krishna at the center and I'm sincere about it, if he knows, like, I'm not like making a bargain with him, like a deal with him, and just saying like, hey, if you give me this, I'll give you like my time on Sundays. If he sincerely sees that, like, no, this person is really trying and wants to offer something to me, wants to build a relationship with me, he'll make the arrangements. These are the forces unseen, either externally or by giving us the intelligence from within, knowing like how to make decisions, how to act. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Okay. So one thing that I want to point out, so I thought this was very, to me, this was very beautiful, taking shelter in the process of preparation and knowing that so much value lies there. And one person that we know who accomplished an astonishing amount and who dedicated a lifetime in preparation is Srila Prabhupada, right? He knew that his spiritual master gave him instruction, go to the Western speaking countries or the English speaking countries and share this knowledge of bhakti with the world. This was his destination. It was a lifetime of preparation. It didn't mean that he didn't, and he actively tried in so many ways in India to get something going, to meet the goal. Nothing worked out, but nothing that he saw as like, this is such a detrimental failure that I cannot try again. Each thing was a preparation for the final destination, for the final goal. So similarly for us, when we feel like that ultimate destination is unattainable because there's so many challenges, it's a matter of changing our mindset. Like, for me to be present here and now and accept that what is happening is preparation for the final destination. And then on a spiritual level, we know this to be true. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, just to emphasize how much our destination is determined by our preparation, that those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship the ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So on that spiritual level too, Krishna is saying, like, depending on how you do your homework, you're going to end up in a certain place, and he's guaranteeing this. So we can see that even on a practical level, or on a smaller scale, this must be true as well. Now, it's easy to say, like, be patient, be enthusiastic, and be determined on this journey that is life, and be present here and now, because this is really, like, the journey is so important in terms of getting where we want to be. Again, and a lot of it comes from like the culture that we live in seeing so much around us, where we feel like people are achieving their goals now and we're not. But preparation is key. It is part of the ultimate journey, and therefore it is also the destination. Who we are now. Because like you don't want to look back once you get to where you're going and think, I never lived in the years in between, right? That would also be such a heartbreaking thing. But all that being said, I acknowledge that it can be hard to stay determined. So some principles for staying determined on this path: 1, act from a position of strength, like we saw in the example of Gajendra and the crocodile. 2, choose to be deliberate in your actions. Like, don't rely on luck. Don't rely on like, oh, things will just work out, I'm just going to go with the flow. Be very deliberate with your actions. These are also from Visheshika Prabhu. So he said two things to be deliberate about. 1 is to be deliberate about the association that you have along the way, right? This will really shape how you act, or like how you, like decisions, who you converse with, how you make decisions. And good association will develop determination. 3, avoid distractions. So this is hard to do for many of us because of this little thing called the internet. But if you're really wanting to go someplace or be in a certain place, maybe set up something that somebody once told me is like, set up obstacles for yourself. So if something is really a challenge for you, like figure out how you can set up obstacles for yourself so that, when you want to sign into your Netflix account to watch 20 hours of television, like it's a real struggle. Like, maybe the password got changed and the recovery account belongs to somebody else. Become deeply committed. So make a well thought out plan, right? It's so easy for us to become, to stray away from our path. Like my destination or my purpose is this huge overarching goal. And it's easy for me to become kind of like nonchalant about it if I don't have a well thought out plan. Because the minute I have something that's well thought out, it becomes more realistic and more practical. And when I see something is practical, I feel more confident that this is achievable. And then I feel like I'm going to commit, right? But if it's this huge, like dreamy idea, I'm just like, oh, this doesn't seem achievable. So my commitment, I'm already one foot out the door. But if I can be well thought out about it, it means it's more likely I'm going to be deeply committed. And then realign your actions regularly, right? So many times when we're on a path, especially like on the material things, we sometimes think like if we've made a decision, we have to stick to it. Don't be afraid to be like, hey, you know what? I'm here. Turns out this is not for me. I'm going to get myself out of this situation, right? There's so much benefit and power in knowing what you want to do, but just as great is knowing what you don't want to do, right? To be able to say like, I confidently can check this off my list. I never want to be a boring accountant, done. Moving on, saw that, been there, done that, moving on. So there is so much value in knowing what you don't want to do. Take action now to reach your dreamy idea or your big goal. You got to start somewhere and you got to start now, right? It's so easy to, this is why the plan or thinking something through is really helpful, because there'll be almost no excuse. And for me, I have this experience, like once I write something down, it's on paper, then I got to take action. It's actually sometimes why I avoid writing things down, because I have this like huge fear that like once I write something down, then the answer will be right in front of me. And it like, why can't I act, right? Because when things are in our mind, we actually think we're doing way more when things are in our mind, right? It's like if you ever have like a huge to-do list at work and someone's like, hey, can you write that email and can you work on that? And you've thought about it. So in your mind, you're like, the activity is done, right? But when you write it down, you've got to do it. And you just, in your mind, things are just ideas that don't actually like pan out. So take action now, write things down. And ultimately, because you might realign the small baby steps. And sometimes that's a little frustrating, but don't forget the end destination, So for example, a big one is like when people are in school, right? And you've gone 3 years through your undergrad and your parents have paid for business school. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, guess what? I think I want to be a dentist, or I think I want to be a lawyer, or you know what? I think I want to be a professional athlete, That's so hard because we're already thinking like, I've invested so much time. I'm afraid to change. But in the details, we sometimes forget like, what's the goal? Like even this idea that like, I want to go to school. The truth is like getting a job is like no one's real goal, like, or destination. It's like filling a purpose, feeling like I'm achieving something. I'm able to, use my skills and inclinations to do something for people, right? So sometimes we get caught up in the details, like, can I really make a change now? Like, I've already invested 3 years, or like, I went to school for this, or, you know, I'm a certain age, I can't change. But don't forget the end goal. And like, the end goal doesn't have to be a place, right? And it really shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like I'm achieving something material. That's important, but I think at the end of the day, we're just trying to be happy. So try to associate some, you know, those like intangible things with our material goals, because I'm not a financial manager because it makes me so happy. You know what I mean? Like, it was like a means of like fulfilling my purpose somehow. And so if that changes, if the details change, that's okay. Yeah. So those are some things that can help you stay determined. And just, yeah, those are some things that will help you stay determined while you're trying to reach your destination. And the destination can be now, because again, for me, like, one of the biggest things I learned in this talk, again, because as I said, I'm unqualified, because ask me what my purpose or destination in life is, and I'm going to be like, I don't know. The key for me that I really found solace in is that taking shelter of the preparation process is so valuable, and it really is a lifetime in preparation. And that when I can take shelter or surrender to where I am now, there are so many forces that may come to help me. And there's this great quote by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which I wanted to pull up, and I could not, because my computer crashed and then I had to restart my browser. I think it says, "Forget the past that never sleeps." I'll have to pull it up later, but it's really, and I mean Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So it's really like, forget about the past. You can't change it. Have a vision, have a goal, but don't, worry about the future, and just be present. And he also says, innate in every living entity, in every jiva, is the propensity to rise. This means within each of us, naturally, whether you think you have it or not, in each of us is this propensity or inclination to rise. It exists in all of us. It could just be a matter of time. It could be a matter of figuring out, like, doing the exploration part. And again, the internal work is, it's probably more important than the external options, because once you put the effort into the internal, you'll see how Krishna will like arrange for the external options to come. And actually, without knowing who you are internally, the truth is the options could be just in front of your face. But since you don't know really who you are and what it is that you want, you'll just ignore everything in front of you. So like, your destination could be literally right here, but you just don't know that that's where you should be. So that's what I had for the team. Are there any easy questions? Or share your reflections. Cool. What's happening?
Sorry, Dula, I think, is on mute.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for such a wonderful talk. We had 2 questions that came in, so I'm just gonna ask them.
Okay, Dula, you have to see if they're easy. If they're not, just they didn't come through.
All right, let me just ask this one here. How do you know if you're on track as we're on the journey?
Yes, this is a great question. Okay, I guess the person who asked this, I feel bad because you might hate me. On track, I feel like it's relative.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, Jessica, I don't know what happened.
I would say 1, it's relative. So, but 2, like, really, objectively speaking, I think it's, okay, I guess there's 2 things. 1, it's good to have, this is why it's good to have somebody to speak to and a mentor, and you can honestly say, this is, if you have a mentor and someone you can speak to, someone who's aware of like your overarching goals and what you're walking towards, you have somebody that can hold you accountable and say like, hey, the last time we spoke, this is where we were going and this is what you thought, like, how do you feel now? Have somebody that you can be completely honest with, somebody that you're comfortable, who can call you out and say like, hey, listen, I think it's been a while and you're not moving forward, or I think you're, maybe you got to reassess your situation. So, someone to really speak honestly to. And then the second thing is something that Visheshika Prabhu always says, is that you should be able to measure your progress in some way. And he has like a specific thing, a quote he always says, I don't remember it, but if you can, hold on, I think I have it actually. So measure what you're doing daily, because it helps determine our determination, but also it's such a practical way to see how, like, what's the progress that I'm making, especially on a spiritual level. Like if your goal is to chant X number of rounds or to read X number of pages, on a material level too, I want to, let's say, like, especially in the fitness world, I'm going to say, like, I want to achieve X, like, number of days at the gym, or X number of yoga classes this every year, or reach a certain goal in terms of like weight. Like measuring something and seeing your progress is such a powerful tool. And that's like right in front of your face. You can't deny progress or lack of progress. So I'd say if you're doing something that can be measured, then go for it. And then having somebody to speak to. And then even like in terms of like, let's say career education, right? Like, let's just say my goal is like, I want to change careers. That's my goal, right? So it's not going to be like measuring something every single day, because it's, that's not it. But it could be like, here are the milestones, and, within 6 months, I'm going to have researched different college programs that I want to go to. Within X months, I'm going to have applied. I'm going to reach out to X number of people in my network. So in those types of like life type of decisions, when what can be measured there is being like, these are the baby steps or the milestones, and a framework or a timeline within which I want to hit those. And that's what can be measured. So being able to measure yourself, whether daily or in a broader scale, and then having somebody who can hold you accountable and realistically talking to them and saying like, how do you think I'm doing? Those are 2 ways you can see if you're on track.
Thank you so much.